the dog that's gonna push his nose to you, and he's
like rude. I forget how she described it in that room.
I'm sure she'll.
So what's Emily doing? Or is she gonna explain it? You guys are videoing.
She might explain it.
Okay.
I wanted to explain like why she chose.
Okay.
I'm having just a little bit of a different conversation with this guy because he's pushy. If he has pushy energy like this on here, he's just gonna, the whole purpose of him on this is gonna be for him to defy it. So I need him to get in a better mindset before we go on it. Otherwise it's not gonna go well or it's gonna be harder for him. So I'm disagreeing with him putting on the brakes right now. And I'm also getting him to stay out of my space. That's why when I'm putting him in front of me, I'm walking towards him. It's like working a horse. I just want him to have a little bit more respect for my personal space. Because otherwise he's going to Velcro me on this treadmill. He's just going to come off the side and that's going to be his whole thing. I need him to feel good on it, not be stuck to me. I have the nose loop on him just because it's going to help me turn him better instead of him fighting the pressure on his neck. He's just really used to that, I can tell already. The other thing I'm doing is when he puts the brakes on, I'm not giving into it at all. I'm not going to pull him out of it, but I'm going to keep the pressure he put on until he gives me some. And by that I mean, if I'm holding him like this, if he moves any bit this way, I'm giving him the slap of the leash, and then I'm doing it again until he inches over, so he understands that I'm asking him to give to the pressure. So I'll hold this, and when he moves just a tiny bit of his paw, I gave him the leash. And then I'm going to put the pressure on. And then he gave me a paw, I lessened it again. I'm going to put it on. He's going to give. I'm going to give him the leash. It was his head whip. It was still towards me. Still just picking a new pattern for him to understand what I'm communicating. Now I'm going to change my position. I don't want to add pressure when he's got that on. Cut it off, whatever. Not my thing today. We can sit and work power loop on this dog all day long. I mean, that's another whole thing we could teach. You can really like get dogs that have the habit of trying to control situations to have to let it go. It just works in a whole different way. You have to be really patient and you have to really know what you're doing.
This guy is also a really good example of a dog who is great at getting the leash down his spine because he's learned how to pull forward into that pressure. So Emily's having to be really mindful of where she is and where she's applying pressure because he's just good at it. He knows what to do, so he can, do what he wants essentially.
The other thing to be mindful of is like all of these dogs lighting up right now is not a good time for me to put them on this, right? It's just gonna add to the stress for him. So I'm gonna work this instead. So this dog, you can see this one, when he hits the end of the leash, I can just hold my ground with it. That black longer haired dog that was just here before, that would have been too much for her. If she hit the end of that leash, that would have been a lot for her. It would have scared her a little. This guy just needs someone to stay firm with him and say, we're not going that way anymore. It's just the different energies of the dog.
His space bubble or his space. He doesn't want to
He tried to bite the leash there, so I just disagreed with him. I told him no. He's just really stubborn. But this is also super draining for him right now. We haven't even done the treadmill right, but he's still trying to figure out what he needs to do to get what he wants right now. And he's trying to figure out what I'm saying. So this, barking, sniffing, all of this is him displacing, right? So he's taking frustration, anxiety, whatever it is, and he's putting it into something else. This is a great example of a dog who, like on a walk, I would not just let him sniff, because it's actually not sniffing. It's like rude sniffing, it's different. Him sniffing me like this is different than him blasting me with his nose. And that's what he's doing to the ground. It's too much. There's a whole different motive going on behind it with him. He's getting a little bit better. I'm not going to make him be perfect, right? Because the treadmill's going to be really good for this guy. He's just a little entitled, I would say. Is he young? You know? 2 or 3, I can't remember. 2. Thanks. See? No shake. So this, same thing. I'm just pushing him back off. I don't want him in my space. It's kind of just his default. And I mean, a lot of it, like when you're in a shelter, people feel bad for you, so they're probably like, come here. So, I'm not going to be like hard on him about it. It's not no shake. When I ask you, you can sit on my feet. So now, we're a little bit better on the leash. I think we're as good as we're going to get. Time in mind. So we're just going to start checking out the treadmill. I wanted him to walk on it, but he sniffed it. I'm taking that because him sniffing it is great. Just using a little bit of leash pressure to show him where I want him to go. So that other dog, when she left, I had to leave her leave. Like she needed to leave, I had to let her. This guy can say, no, I want you to go on here. He's more confident than she was. This is the same as putting the brakes on when you're walking. You just define what you're asking. I'm not going to use treats with him quite yet.
He's like, I'm on it.
He just, dogs do what works. So he knows that if he lays down, he looks really cute, people stop.
So why
I'm just
won't
trying
you-
all the things.
Why won't you use treats from them yet?
Right now, his state of mind is he's being stubborn and defiant. I don't want to reward that. I want to use it treats to entice him, but he just needs to take it down just a little bit before I do that. So now he's thinking more about it. Now I will use treats. Before he was just like, I don't want to go on here. Now he's kind of like, oh God, am I supposed to go on there? Now I will entice him. You see the sniffing is different than what he was sniffing before.
Can you explain how, just in case it's not clear in the video?
Yeah, so his sniffing now, a more natural sniff is like this, right? Like they're just finding the smell and sniffing. Before he was like sniffing the ground, like very jerky, very like intense.
Almost like muzzle punching the ground?
Yes, yes. The energy behind it's just different.
Yep. Okay.
It's like finding versus like punching something with your nose. I let him go off the front because I wasn't prepared for it. That's all. Stuff happens. Not the end of the world. I would have normally blocked this guy. He's going to defy it a bit, but nice. So now I'm going to use the treat to turn him. He just needs to see that he can turn. There we go. It's also a little bitey with the treats.
So
What a surprise.
I also want to make note and disagree if tell me if you disagree, but you're not giving him as much verbal affection because we know this guy gets stimulated a little easier than the last gal who's a little more chill, right? So if you were like good, 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 he would just amp up.
And then I'd be like, knock it off, and that's not fair.
Right. So you are providing some verbal cues and rewards, but it's just not quite as much as the last
And the
one.
way I'm like, good boy. The other girl was like, good girl.
Yeah.
That would be so much for him.
Yeah.
Even just like when I touch his side to turn him, he's like, ooh, like he's just ready all the time. So me adding anything to that is just gonna heighten him. Nice. I'm gonna try and pat him on the chest to see how he's feeling, but you can tell already, like he's just like, he's ready. He doesn't need it from me. This is nice. So he got a little shaky in his legs there, so I'm going to do it again. His back legs just got a little bit trembly when he figured out he had to turn. Otherwise, I'm going to put this guy on. And if he fights it, it is going to be from stubbornness, not from fear. I guarantee that. He might just go right with it. I'm 50-50 on it.
We used to.
Yeah.
Good. Good boy. So he needs to go faster. That was, I don't know what that was.
That's what it was
It's
doing for
very
us.
confused. So he's just looking for what it is that's moving it.
It could be because he's like
Oh,
pushing
okay.
a lot of his button. Like
That's what it was
really
doing to us
fast.
when we first tried to use it.
So the important thing here is I'm going to hold the pressure if he goes to the end because I need him to realize that that's a boundary, right? He needs to come back up. If he's going to sit there and hold it like that pity, then you do the bumps so that they get breaks in between so they understand. A lot of dogs when they're bullheaded like that, they feel the pressure and they're just like, this sucks, and they just stick with it. Where like if you take the pressure off and put it back on and give them bumps, it's like, by the way, I need you to come forward. Because they're just like, ugh, and they'll just take it. Some dogs you gotta like be like, I need you to go this way, and just give them a little reminder.
And that's actually similar to horse handling techniques, is pulsing it instead of just one firm pull.
There's a, like, if it works, it'll work right away. And if it's not, there's a point where they're like, I don't know what's happening, but there's pressure. And so you just gotta kind of give them an idea of what you're asking.
Does it make sense to you guys why the last dog we didn't like force
Why
this
she
on?
wouldn't go the next step, but he would. It's just the personality behind the avoidance. Hers was fear, his is, he's just being stubborn. He's sure a little unsure, but he's not like shut down about it.
Like even when he was crouched, like his tail was fine.
Yeah.
Like it was small.
Well, and a lot of what he's doing, like when you guys see him crouching and all that, is really because he's like stopping. Like he's just like, no. Not like I'm scared. He's just like, no. You want to, I don't. The other girl, if she was doing it because she was nervous, I would still want to like take her forward to like show her it's okay. But it's like a stubborn kid versus a scared kid. This is good. He's opening his mouth. This is important. You see he's still got some forehead wrinkles. He's still processing a bit here. He doesn't have like a stress pant going, so that's nice.
His
He can
tail,
take stress a lot better.
when his tail looks good, his
He's
feet
like-
aren't
yeah.
splayed.
His toes, you can see like they're actually even more close together than the pitties were. His went out still a little bit. Not as splayed as like a super scared dog, right? But
He did better than I thought.
I knew it was gonna be like okay, or he was gonna like flail.
And I was expecting.
Yeah, the flail.
You talking about Sam?
Thor.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
Like that's kind of like why I thought that progression because I thought he'd be a flailer. But
Him?
Yeah.
Ditto.
I thought he would do this good.
The reason I was banking on that he wouldn't was because him flying around on the leash is why I did it more. Was because he was being stubborn, not because he was nervous.
Yeah.
So the floor moving is going to make him nervous, and he's more likely to power through that because that's not why he was doing the on the leash. It was more because like I don't want to go that way.
Yeah.
This is winning because it's kind of weird, but he's like, what the heck is this? He's doing really good. He's probably going to be a 1.6er to start. So
When you
this is
guys-
a guy that like could go a little bit fast before you go slow. This sounds like the track's off.
So it sounds like it's catching a little bit.
And that's what it was sounding like from
Yeah,
Madison
he
when
might
I
need to
was
mess
set it up.
So do you see how he's like, he might stop. If he repeatedly goes to the end, comes back, goes to the end, then I need to slow it down because it's too much for him. If he can't figure it out on his own. You don't want him like hitting the end of the leash a lot because that's just going to freak him out. And I don't want this to be tight, so I'm keeping an eye on this. If he's naturally going to be a little bit more ahead, I'm going to give him a little bit more slack. I want them to feel like they're leash free on here. Because that's a goal. Nice. So his tongue's a little tense. It's not as loose as the Biddy's was, but it's flatter. These are just the little things that I'm going to watch for. Same with like how he walks. He's still kind of walking a little stiff. His tail is down, but it's like relaxed down. It's not like tucked under him. Some dogs you'll see on here, I'm just going to slow down a little bit. Some dogs, when we have them on treadmills, the only time we'll ever see their tail go all the way down is on a treadmill. Because they just kind of like get zen and just like, they're just walking a walk. Huskies are a good example. Like if they're curled up, sometimes they'll be the only time you see them like hanging. The other thing that, I mean, when you have a dog that's doing really good, like that pitty would be a good example. The other thing you can do is like tether them off.
Sorry,
And then,
we need to evaluate.